Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Brandon Lee, and for Dennis Welch, this is Politics Unplugged. And tonight we're talking about an exceptional right for Arizona voters. It's the initiative process. Enshrined in the Arizona Constitution, it lets us actually write and vote our own laws. Arizona is one of about 24 states with that right, but Arizona voters, they use it the most. The state's founding fathers loved it. Lawmakers not so much these days. Here to talk about that process and what's being done over at the Capitol to kind of limit what voters have to say, we have Garrick Taylor with the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Joel Edman with the Arizona Advocacy Network. Guys, both representing different sides of how we're going to view this today. Thank you for your time today. Garrick, I want to begin with you in the Chamber of Commerce. Why is the Chamber of Commerce I don't want to paraphrase too much, but kind of against the voter initiative?
Well, look, as you said, the voter initiative process, it's part of Arizona's DNA. It's been part of this state since statehood. So nobody's rolling back the Gadsden Purchase. Let's just make that clear. And if you have a real grassroots effort that you want to take to the voters, have at it. We want you to do that. But the stakes are really high. We have to make sure we do this the right way. Because if we even make a mistake, an unintended consequence, our lawmakers can't go back and fix it. So we're saying if we're going to continue with the citizen initiative process, let's put some common sense safeguards around that process.
Okay, one example of how it's worked negatively toward the state.
Well, we just saw it recently in the fall. Voters adopted Proposition 206, which sought to raise and successfully raise the minimum wage. Okay, that was the take from voters. But we now know that there are some unintended consequences. We didn't know how it would affect caregivers to the developmentally disabled, those caregivers who are now on contracts to the state. They weren't spoken for in Prop 206. What about schools who are now having to scramble their budgets to meet the mandates of 206? So voters might wonder, well, the legislature should go back and fix that. Well, they can't because of something called the Voter Protection Act. It makes it very difficult to go back and amend something the voters have already adopted. So we have to be sure if something's going to the ballot that it's something that not only reflects the will of Arizona voters, but it's legally sound, and we make sure we don't go into some unintended consequence.
But I think a lot of people would sit there and say to you, listen, $10 an hour, the minimum wage should be something like that. And it's egregious at the fact that some small businesses can't even afford to pay that then.
And voters said as much. What they didn't say, though, is that caregivers should be going out of business. They didn't say that their local public school district should have to be scrambling its budget to come up with the dollars that were once intended for teachers and are now going to pay support staff. That wasn't intentional. They maybe didn't think that businesses would be raising their prices. Now, we don't know that because it wasn't pitched as such by the proponents. And the folks at the Capitol who would like to step in and fix that on behalf of public school districts, on behalf of caregivers, they can't do it.
All right, I'm going to bring Joel into the conversation here with the Arizona Advocacy Network. And Joel, a lot of people, a lot of listeners out there, and of course politics can get very confusing at times with a lot of different lingo, and there are people who are watching right now saying, listen, these lawmakers, they work for us, they work for me, and if we want something done, we're going to do whatever it takes to get it done. What's your take on what the Chamber of Commerce is saying about the voter initiative, and a bit of a pushback here to say, you know, voters may not always know best?
Well, you're right that the lawmakers at the Capitol, the politicians at the Capitol do work for all of us, and the reason why we need this initiative process, why it's been fundamental to Arizona's constitutional system since statehood, is that too often the people at the Capitol just won't hear the will of the voters. You know, if the legislature wanted to design their own sort of Prop 206, they were absolutely free to do that. You know, the reason why the people had to go to the ballot to do it themselves is that the politicians simply refused. You know, and I also, you mentioned the Voter Protection Act. I want to sort of dispel this idea that it makes it completely impossible to ever sort of change an initiative. You know, what the VPA says is that you need 3/4 in both houses, and you have to be furthering the purpose of the initiative. So if it's really a minor tweak, if we're really solving some unintended consequence, that's absolutely doable. What the Voter Protection Act stops is one party or one interest group from simply rejecting the will of the voters and overturning it after the election.
And I have to say that the Glenn Hammer, right, the president of the chamber, recently called the initiative process the Achilles heel of Arizona state government.
That's right.
Are you essentially, is the president essentially saying that voters, what voters, their mindset, their thinking, their efforts to put an initiative on the ballot is actually what is hindering our state?
No, what we are saying is we have a process now where our back door is wide open. Our representatives and state senators and our governor have done a great job of making our state more competitive. I don't believe citizens thought that our citizen initiative process would be manipulated by out-of-state interest groups like labor unions, environmental radicals, who would bring things to Arizona like they attempted last year. Compensation caps on healthcare executives, solar energy mandates, a more robust taxpayer-funded election scheme. These weren't homegrown Arizona ideas. These were imported from out of state. That's not a citizen initiative process, sir. That's importing bad ideas from out of state. That we shouldn't be in that business.
You know, I think there are some voters out there who are saying, well, listen, the government is giving us no option but to come forward with voter initiatives. Because a majority of Americans, whether it be nationally or statewide, do not believe state lawmakers are working for them. They don't believe that they're on their side. So voters get a sense of, well, then we've got to take it in our own hands and push for what we believe in.
Well, let's be clear. The citizen initiative process reforms we're proposing strengthen and preserve an initiative process. We don't want it manipulated by out-of-state interests. Let's also keep in mind that lawmakers go before voters every 2 years. In the case of the voter initiative, were it adopted at the ballot box, you can't touch it. It's hands off. Despite what Joel says, it's nearly impossible to get to that 3/4 vote and furthering the interest of the original ballot language. We have to be extremely careful. So we can have an initiative process. Let's put some common sense guardrails around it. Let's make sure the folks collecting those signatures aren't ID thieves. Let's have a common sense way of turning in our signatures. Those are reforms I think that we can all support from both parties.
Okay. When it comes to taxes, and Joel, I'm going to get back to you, but I want to ask you this. When it comes to taxes, it feels like the government doesn't have a problem putting something on the ballot when it comes to increases taxes, whether it be, I believe it's Prop 123, if I get that right? Yeah, Prop 123, you're talking about a gas tax. When it comes to taxes, it seems that some lawmakers have no problem putting that on the ballot, having voters then vote for that so that it doesn't fall back on the tax on the government.
Well, let's just set the record straight. Prop 123 was from last year. That was a special election that took money out of the state land trust and put it into schools. There's no tax increase there. So just to set the record straight there. There are times where we're going to send questions to voters. Now, that's the referendum process, which we also have in Arizona. There might be a time we send a gas tax question to voters. Voters can vote that up or down. Though, as Representative Michelle Ugenti-Rita has pointed out, even when the legislature sends a question to voters, it is locked in time under the Voter Protection Act. So again, there's very little flexibility in the policymaking process within the initiative system we have in Arizona.
Unless you get a 3/4 of the majority down there to agree on making a change.
Yeah, have you seen a super-duper majority like that happen in the legislature and further the interest? That's very hard to come by.
Well, perhaps Arizona could do it because there's a majority of Republicans down there.
Well, remember, you're going to have to get them to agree to the premise, and that's 3/4, though. That's much different than just a 1 or 2 vote majority like you've got in the state Senate. And remember, these lawmakers are going before voters every 2 years. Voters get to hold those lawmakers accountable.
So, Joel, I have to ask you this question. There are initiatives out there where I think some voters would sit there and say, they would say, well, listen, gay marriage is legal because voters ended up getting that on the ballot in several states, and including Arizona. Would it be medical marijuana or getting marijuana on the ballot? What do you see that is so crucial and important to continue giving the right to Arizona voters to put initiatives on the ballot?
Well, there are just so many issues where the legislature simply refuses to do its job because it's out of step, with the will of the people. I mean, this is, to Garrick's point, why it's hard often to get to that 3/4 is, as he said, it's hard to get the legislature to agree with the premise of what the voters told them is going to be the law. And that's just kind of a basic problem, and this is the only workaround. The legislature's refusal to take up issues, whether it's 206 or medical marijuana in the past, or a lot of efforts that the citizens have put on the ballot to reform our own state government. Things like clean elections, open primaries, independent redistricting so that people choose the politicians instead of the other way around. None of these were really popular with special interest groups and the politicians that they can influence at the Capitol. And the initiative is the only way that we're going to make those things happen. And by the way, it's already really hard to get something on the ballot. We have some of the highest signature thresholds in the country. We have rules that make it absurdly easy to bounce signatures that were collected from registered voters, totally lawfully collected, where the will of the people is being expressed by signing a petition sheet, able to bounce them in court for no good reason. So we've already made it really hard. I don't know why we need to make it any harder, and that's really what this is about.
Brandon, we had a judge last year who was poised to throw out tens of thousands of signatures that were collected fraudulently. You know why that Proposition 206, despite fraudulent signatures, still went to the ballot? Because there was such ambiguity around the deadlines when a group could bring a challenge to those signatures. There is something in law today that should never have even been on the ballot in the first place. We should be upset about that and do something and pass a reform that preserves the integrity of our initiative process.
All right, we're going to have to table the conversation right there. Joel and Garrick, thank you very much for the debate. We'll continue this again on a future topic, I'm sure. Lots more to come here on Politics Unplugged on this Sunday. Lawmakers facing off over the Arizona Coyotes, and it looks like a battle may be brewing over whether the team needs a new arena or should take advantage of the one they already have. We're going to find what some lawmakers out there think that the state needs help on to find this team a new home. It's a topic that's on thin ice right now. And she doesn't look like she doesn't look like the bad hombres President Trump said that he wanted to deport. But after 20 years in the United States, this Valley mother finds herself back in Mexico at the center of the immigration battle. More Politics Unplugged just ahead.
He was a legend on the ball field and a leader in uniform. Now, for the first time, 3TV and CBS 5 are joining forces to honor Arizona's hero, Pat Tillman. Join us Saturday, April 22nd for the 13th annual Pat's Run, presented by Tech Systems. By supporting the Pat Tillman Foundation, you'll empower more Tillman scholars to become leaders for our country. Register now and continue Pat's legacy, and only from 3TV and CBS 5.
Perfect for Valentine's. The Jewelry Exchange has 2-carat Heart of the Sea pendants, $69, dancing rubies, $79, 3-stone diamond rings, $99, pearl strands or diamond studs, $49. Thousands of gifts guaranteed to appraise for double. The Jewelry Exchange, Phoenix.
You won't believe all the special purchases we've made. End-of-the-year inventory numbers force factories to clear out their warehouses and sell excess merchandise. That means you'll get great bargains, like this cuddler recliner for only $2.98, or this 3-piece sectional for just $6.78, and this 2-piece 2-tone sectional for only $4.98. These are one-time purchases at huge discounts, and we're passing the savings on to you. The lowest prices anywhere, anytime.
Plumbing issues? Call Penguin Air and Plumbing for our $69 Any Drain Unplugged special. Now with free camera inspection. Or get a free air duct inspection with a complete heater tune-up, also for only $69. Keep your family safe and healthy by turning to the experts. Penguin Air and Plumbing.
Hi, I'm Waddles. Call 24/7. We'll get there fast.
So here's the question. Out of hundreds of appliances out there, how do you know what to buy? By simply knowing where to buy. Spencer's TV and Appliance.
Start your mornings with Olivia. Weekdays on 3TV.
Perfect for Valentine's. The Jewelry Exchange has pearl sets, $29, dancing diamond and ruby hearts, $79, diamond studs, $59 to $3.99 per carat, and heart-shaped diamonds, $4.49. Thousands of gifts guaranteed to appraise for double. The Jewelry Exchange, Phoenix.
Welcome back, everyone, to Politics Unplugged. And the Arizona Coyotes are now taking center ice in what may turn into a huge battle over where exactly they should play. Now, it is no secret that the Coyotes want a new home. They're very unhappy with their current deal over at the Gila River Arena. But up until now, that has been a battle between the team and the city of Glendale. But this past week, an East Valley lawmaker kind of dove into that controversy. After a proposed deal with ASU fell through, State Senator Bob Worsley said that he would look at ways that the state could help the Coyotes move, possibly even to Mesa. In an interview with the Arizona Capital Times, Senator Worsley said this: ASU is no longer a viable site. It will become an agnostic location, an agnostic site bill, to give the Coyotes a chance to find the right place. They have been talking to other people as well. He went on to say this: I'm just trying to save a business that employs over 1,000 people with lots of fans from leaving the state. With us right now, Representative Anthony Kern, whose district, by the way, includes the city of Glendale, which of course is where the Coyotes currently play over at the Gila River Arena. I'm guessing, State Representative, you do not want to see the Coyotes leave.
That's correct, Brandon. I do not want to see the Coyotes leave. I think the Coyotes are still good for Glendale, and I think we all want to make sure the Coyotes stay in Arizona.
What do you do? It's kind of like a marriage. What do you do when the wife says, "Husband, I don't want to be with you anymore"? How do you make that marriage work?
Well, you make it work. You sit down at the table, you negotiate and look at the problem and try to solve it. So Glendale...
Haven't they done that? Haven't they tried to?
The Coyotes or Glendale?
Are you saying the Coyotes haven't? You say that in a way they're saying that Coyotes haven't put forth an effort to want to stay there.
You know, the Coyotes continually say almost yearly that they're threatening to leave the state. How can you work on a marriage when you have that kind of a spouse that continually threatens to leave? So the city of Glendale, the mayor and the city council, has said to the Coyotes, you know, they're reaching out to them now. They've said, let's get back to the negotiating table. Let's work out a deal in an arena that's already been built at a cost of $200+ million that the Glendale taxpayers have already are paying for right now.
All right, you know, we had the city manager of Glendale on the air, and he was kind of talking to the whole point here of the Arizona Coyotes and what he wants to see happen. Let's go ahead and play the tape with the city manager.
Well, I think we'd like to make it that it's not a secret as well. We'd like to keep them here in Glendale. We think it's a fabulous arena. And, you know, we recognize, I think the community has to do a better job of supporting the franchise. We certainly have committed from our side to help do that. But we've got, you know, we've encouraged them to look at a longer-term lease arrangement with the arena. We've offered them what is considered one of the best arena lease deals in the NHL. And so we'll let it play out where it's at, but we clearly want them to continue to stay home in Glendale.
Listen, I don't think this is a diss, and I don't think that some people want this to be a diss towards the West Valley, but is the West Valley a place that can actually draw a lot of the crowds from people who maybe want to go down, hang out in downtown Phoenix, go to Chase Field, go watch a Suns game? A lot of the sports complexes seem to be downtown.
Well, and that's a great question, Brandon. Thank you. The West Valley is part of the state that's growing exponentially. Over the past 5 years, the West Valley has grown more than Phoenix and the East Valley combined. So, you know, projections are in the next couple of decades that the West Valley is a place to be. And if you're wanting to draw in business and draw in fans, I think the West Valley is where you should be.
Do you think that they want to wait around a couple of decades in order for that fan base to come? I think right, a professional team or a business, they want that business now. I get to see why the city and lawmakers from out there want to start investing now for the long term and a long future here. But right, as a small business or even as a larger business, that is the NHL team, right? You want that fan base now. Absolutely.
And Brandon, right now the Coyotes have a state-of-the-art facility. So let's talk about the contract. The contract right now is that from what I've heard, the Coyotes has just agreed to extend it out to 2018. So the contract right now allows for 100% payment to the Coyotes for concessions, for merchandise, for parking. It allows for 80% of the naming rights. The Coyotes right now pay very little rent. This is a state-of-the-art facility that the taxpayers of this state, particularly Glendale, who has sacrificed police services, fire services, street improvements, library improvements and hours. The Glendale citizens have sacrificed only to have the Coyotes say, well, we're going to take our puck and go home. We're going to find another location across the East Valley, across the valley, and just, you know, thumb their nose. You know, whatever perceived wrongs has happened, or perceived wrongs, or whatever the emotional part of it is, let's set that aside. Let's get back to the negotiating table and let's work out a deal in a current arena that has already been built.
Where has that relationship gone sour? Have you picked up the phone and talked to the team owners?
I have not.
Should you?
If they're willing to talk, absolutely. As a Glendale leader, I think I'm open to that possibility.
I mean, I'm just saying that if communication's breaking down somewhere, and as somebody who's representing that area, at what point, whether it's the mayor, or, you know, perhaps, as you said, it's a soured relationship between the mayor and the team. At what point does it take other leaders to come in and pick up the phone and start a dialogue before it's too late?
Great question, Brandon. Thank you. There's a coalition right now of West Valley legislators, senators, Democrat and Republican, that say to the Coyotes, let's talk. Let's sit down, let's talk. Let's work out and negotiate some type of a deal that you agree with. I think what's not being said here is the Coyotes are a little miffed that the city of Glendale basically said, we are not going to pay you $15 million annually in taxpayer subsidies. So I think that's really part of the unseen story here, untold story, is that that has been stopped. Glendale taxpayers are no longer paying that $15 million annually. And so they decided to take their ball and go to another part of the state and say, let's...
But you want to see the Arizona Coyotes at least stay here in Arizona?
Oh, absolutely.
There's a local paper out in your neck of the woods that's reporting that they were up scouting new locations in the Northwest.
I would love to see them stay right where they're at. There's no reason to build another arena, especially a taxpayer-funded arena, in the state of Arizona. We have enough arenas. They're all competing with each other. You know, it's a state-of-the-art facility. Any one of the 29 other NHL components teams would love to have the same thing that the Coyotes has.
All right, State Representative, thank you for coming in today. We'll talk to you in the future. This debate is not done.
Yes,
There'll be a lot more conversations to come.
Thank you, sir.
By the way, lots more to come here on Politics Unplugged, including how a Valley mother became the face of the immigration battle. Donna Rossi with that story tonight.
The 35-year-old woman at the center of this national story has been in the United States illegally since she was 14. And since being ordered out more than 3 years ago, she has routinely checked in here at the Immigrations and Customs offices, each time being allowed to stay in the United States. But yesterday was different. She checked in, was arrested, and deported.
This family has now been separated.
The announcement was made by activists and confirmed by U.S. officials that Valley mother, wife, and convicted felon Guadalupe Garcia de Reyes had been deported to Mexico Thursday morning.
And no one should ever go through the pain of having their mom taken away from them.
Guadalupe's 14-year-old daughter, Jacqueline, said her mother is a kind person who would never hurt anyone.
I think it's unfair that they just took her away just because she was working in order to support us.
Guadalupe's felony conviction came after this 2008 MCSO raid at a Mesa water park for using a fake Social Security number to get hired.
We need my mother back with us, and we're going to keep on fighting. We want her back in our arms. We want her back over here where she belongs. She belongs with us.
Along with Guadalupe's 2 U.S.-born teenagers, her husband, activists, and attorney gathered outside the Immigration and Customs offices, vowing to fight for her return and for families in similar situations.
She is a convicted felon now.
She's absolutely 110% a convicted felon. There's no disputing that fact.
But what about the victim whose identity she stole?
Well, that's a good point. We've never seen that victim before. In her criminal court case, nobody ever came forward and said, that's my Social Security number.
ICE officials issued a statement saying Garcia's case was reviewed on multiple levels, including by immigration's appeals judges who ruled she could not stay in the U.S. legally. They would not answer any questions as to why she had not been removed before during the other times she has checked in here over the past few years. In Phoenix, Donna Rossi, 3TV.
When you've had one too many, you make bad decisions. When this happens, pick up the phone and make the right decision. Got nailed? Get Lerner and Rowe.
Lerner and Rowe is the way to go. Call 977-1900.
Ring in the new year with a new you and get the body you've always wanted with Sono Bello. Book by February 14th during our New Year, New You special, and you can get one area free.
I had this fat that I could not get rid of, and that's where Sono Bello came in. It's been awesome.
With a nationwide network of over 100 board-certified doctors, Sono Bello specializes in advanced microlaser body sculpting, a life-changing procedure that removes stubborn fat in as little as 1 day with minimal downtime. And you can be in and out in just a couple of hours. At Sono Bello, getting that new you is more affordable than ever. Call 888-403-5932 to get a free no-obligation consultation. And right now, during this limited time New Year's special, book before February 14th and get one area free. That's your love handles, inner thighs, or even your chin for free. With affordable financing plans, Sono Bello can fit almost any budget. Call now to schedule your free consultation and find out how to get one area free. Call 888-403-5932 now.
To err is human. To anticipate is the Lexus RX. With pedestrian detection, auto braking, and lane departure alert, stand. Experience another step closer to a safer world.
Take advantage of special President's Day offers now through the 28th on the 2017 RX 350.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
With the Black Heart at Planet Fitness, you get all this. And this.
For only $1 down and $19.99 a month, you get this, plus this. With a black card at Planet Fitness, you'll get all this and all this. $1 down, $19.99 a month, and your first month free. Become a Black Card member at Planet Fitness for only $1 down, $19.99 a month, and get your first month free now through February 15th.
We know car accidents don't always happen Monday through Friday. If you're hurt in a car wreck, we're available for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You don't have to wait until Monday to get the help you need now.
977-1900.
Welcome back, everyone, to Politics Unplugged. Time to talk now with our partners from First Strategic. Always good to have these guys with us. Marcus Dellartino and Barry Dill here with us today. Guys, let's get right to it.
You got it.
Talking about the deportation of a Valley mother, Guadalupe Garcia de Reyes. Just for our viewers at home, she was arrested in one of Sheriff Joe Arpaio's immigration raids back in 2008. She was convicted for using a false ID. She spent time in prison. She convicted of a felony. She was checking in regularly with ICE, not considered to be, Marcus, a violent offender, right. a violent criminal. She was checking with ICE. They held her. They've now deported her. Should anyone be surprised that this is happening now?
Listen, you know, to some extent, Trump's filling a campaign promise. But remember what he said. He said, it's time to get rid of the bad hombres, I think is the word he used, or the bad guys. And the problem is, I think to a certain extent, she's gotten caught up in a change in the law that politically he meant to get some other people. And I think as time goes on and he goes through this 90-day or 120-day evaluation on immigration policy, I think that part is going to ease up, because he's also made statements that he doesn't want to punish those people that want to come here and work hard.
She has two American-born children, right. So a family is being torn apart here.
Right, and she clearly got, you know, look, when they said she's a bad person, well, she's a felon because she used somebody's ID to go to work. She didn't kill anybody, she didn't rape anybody, she didn't rob anybody. So, you know, I think that this is, the polls that we see on a daily basis, and although it's on a slim margin, are that these types of situations are the ones that the voters are saying, look, if they want to come here and work hard, let's find a path to citizenship for these people. If you are a bad guy, like the guy who was shooting an officer on I-10, get them out of the country ASAP, and don't ask questions.
There's not a whole lot that Marcus said I can take exception with, except that I do believe that based upon 3 weeks only of history, we're going to see more and more of this. And especially now that Trump got his nose crushed at the Ninth Circuit Court over the entire policy, I think that, you know, the ego, the arrogance, the meanness will just permeate itself even more. And I'm afraid we're going to see more of these kind of issues.
And do you think it's a bad beginning of kind of going after the illegal immigrants when this is the highlighted case, really the first case under the Trump administration when somebody is being deported is not somebody who is a violent criminal?
I think this is not the perfect case, I can tell you that. The case that they should have been looking at is the one, and I think Congressman Biggs has a bill to address this situation, but you remember the young boy who was shot in the QT in Mesa by an illegal immigrant that should have been tossed out of this country 3 separate times. And shot him dead in the QT, just a young man. So that is a clear case of the guys that we're talking about. And those are the guys that needed to be deported.
20 seconds left.
20 seconds left.
Does he take it to the Supreme Court?
I hope he does, and I hope...
You think he loses?
You have to take it to the Supreme Court. You cannot trust the Ninth Circuit is the most liberal court in the country.
Filibuster the Supreme Court nomination, so we only have 8 members until we get...
The nominee that they unanimously approved, by the way, before.
Continue online, folks. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Politics Unplugged. We'll see you back here next Sunday.